Regular meeting of council to order at 3 p.m. for April 11th. Ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn that council adopt the agenda for the regular council meeting March 27th as presented.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. You have my motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Smith that an omnibus motion adopts the following in accordance with council's procedure bylaw, the March 27th regular meeting minutes and the strategic priorities chart.
You have my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Any public comments regarding anything on the agenda for today? None? Okay, we'll move right in. Foothills Shuffleboard Club delegation, and I see Ken Wardley is here to present. And are you turning mics on and off? Okay. I can do it. As long as there's only one of us doing it. If it'll work. The floor is yours, Ken.
Thank you. Mayor Snodgrass and councillors, good afternoon. My name is Ken Wardley, and I am here representing the Foothills Shuffleboard Association and the Highwood Curling Club. I am supported today by members of both clubs. We are here to ask for your participation in providing an elevator lift to the upstairs lounge and viewing area of the curling facility. The Foothills Shuffleboard Association first came to the curling club back in 2007 for permission to use the curling rink in the off-season to play the game of floor shuffleboard. Thanks to then Club President Craig Snodgrass, permission was granted. An integral part of the Shuffleboard Club season are 2 tournaments, and invitations are extended to players in Canada and the United States. In connection with our club's activities, and specifically during the tournaments, the lounge was available for our use. That was 16 years ago. We were younger and were more able to navigate the stairs. 90% of our membership are seniors, and many have difficulty maneuvering the stairs. For some, it's impossible. We are advised that 90 to 100 members of the curling club are seniors. This is simply a demographic that we cannot ignore. On a personal note, I am one of those who has fallen down the stairs. The first time I did not hurt myself, but the second time I hurt my shoulder and reported the incident to the recreation facility staff. The sports of curling and floor shuffleboard are not just for the sports. They are the essence of camaraderie, social ability, friendship, wellness, and inclusion. What comes into play now are practices and policies designed to identify barriers, such as physical ones, that hamper an individual's ability to have and enjoy full participation in society. This is where you, the decision-making body of our town, comes into focus. We have a physical barrier that prevents an individual's ability to partake fully in the enjoyment of the recreation facility, and we'd like you to fix that. There was a recent article in the Calgary Herald under the headline, "Making Things a Little More Accessible," with a subtitle, "Strasnitsky Aims to Make Buildings Free of Any Barriers." You will recall that Ryan Strasnitsky was paralyzed from the chest down 5 years ago in an accident that claimed 16 members of the Humboldt Bronco hockey team. Having now traveled the world, he's come to appreciate that Canada, in general, is a little behind the 8 ball on accessibility. After several discussions with management and staff of the Bog Snodgrass Recreation Complex, it was determined that an approach should be made to Town Council with a request that you consider funding the installation of an elevator lift to assist with the access to the lounge level of the curling facility. In my efforts to source as much information as was available in the preliminary stages of a project such as this, I spoke with many contractors, engineers, and contractors, and the documentation provided to you includes a proposal from KDW Architectural Professional Services, which is a Calgary company. Further information was provided by Shift Accessibility Contractors, which is based in Okotoks. And Uppercut, the company that manufactures the elevator lift, is a Canadian company based in Vancouver, with a satellite office in Calgary. This company recently installed an elevator lift unit in a commercial building in High River. We appreciate that the installation of an elevator lift will be costly. Based on initial estimates and the information that was provided for your review, this project could cost in the area of $300,000. The town recently spent a great deal of money on upgrades to the ice surfaces in both the curling area and the small arena, and is looking to spend a great deal more money on more upgrades to the swimming pool area. Respectfully, how can you consider these upgrades and not address accessibility barriers? At this time, I can advise that the Foothill Shuffleboard Association would be willing to spend some dollars toward the installation of the elevator lift. I also have a letter of support from the Highwood Curling Club. I understand that the Curling Club spent $40,000 on upgrades to the lounge area, so they have more than a passing interest in accessibility. This concludes my presentation this afternoon. I do appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts with you. I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Ken. Any questions from council? So in here, like you just mentioned $300,000. In the proposal that you gave us, it says 360 plus. Which one?
I have in my notes 300,000, Mayor.
Okay.
That could be for, put in there as a contingency.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think there was $50,000 of
Right.
contingency in there, Ken, so that makes sense. Where would this be located, knowing that facility very well? Where would we be able to put this thing inside?
The elevator lift could be built, I believe, in two areas. One on the outside of the complex, or on the inside of the complex, close to where the stairs are now. So that configuration might have to be changed a little bit because of the doors, but
Right.
That could happen there, as what we were told.
Okay. And the other thing I noticed, just clarify going back, it asks for a, sorry, let me get back up to the top here. It says they need a pit dug.
If the elevator lift is put on the outside of the building,
Right.
then there would need to be a pit dug approximately 4 to 5 feet deep.
Okay.
And then there would have to be heat put into that pit so that the hydraulics of the elevator lift would not freeze or wouldn't get stuck.
Yeah, which comes into the complication of putting it on the exterior of the building too,
Yes, that's right.
Like the whole thing would have to be then completely enclosed and heated. Because there's still the lift for bringing booze up to the bar, right?
No,
Or is that gone?
that's gone. That has been condemned.
So is that space available?
Yes, it could be available. It could be worked around.
Right.
There's nothing written exactly where the architect or the engineers would look at.
Wouldn't be-
But they certainly are flexible on that.
Okay. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass, and thank you, Mr. Worley, for being here today. I have a question, and I, as a curler, someone who's used the facility quite a bit, I'm curious, have we ever had the conversation or explored the option of turning it around? That the locker room on the main floor that is easily accessible to all and many could be moved upstairs, and the bar could be moved downstairs with the viewing area there? Has that ever reached a conversation level?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And I don't think it would be very feasible. Normally, when you come off the curling rink, the dressing room or the change room is right there.
Yeah.
I don't think that they would want to go upstairs, change, and then come back down again.
Okay.
But I don't know.
But I'm throwing it out there, like if we're looking at solutions, this is a very expensive solution.
But it would have to be something that the architect and engineers, design engineers, would have to look at.
Yeah.
And also, they would have to have some conversation with the curling club director as to how it could happen. I believe that they use most of that all the time for changing areas.
Okay, but I'm just saying, could you move the change rooms upstairs and have?
That I don't know.
Then you'd have greater accessibility on the main level.
That I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. In here, you do suggest that the Shuffleboard Club is prepared to assist financially. Is the curling club prepared to, and what is the amounts, or do you know?
The curling club, as I mentioned to you, they have already put in $40,000 of upgrades into the lounge area. So they have a very vested interest in this. The Shuffleboard Club would be willing to put in $10,000 toward the placing of the elevator in that facility.
Sorry, how much was that?
10,000?
Okay. Nancy, $40,000
Yes,
upgrades?
40,000, I'm told.
I'm looking at Nancy. She'll
Pardon me?
know. She'll know.
Those upgrades were done outside of our agreement, so
We don't know. Okay, okay. Okay, perfect, just so that we know where that's. One of these was installed in a building in High River. What facility was that, Ken?
It was a building on Center Street. I believe the building is owned by Robert Cruzy. And it was put in for the operation of the second floor, so he could rent out that second floor.
Gotcha. I know what building you're talking about now. Okay. With this being the type of facility that it is, Nancy, can we look into Ken's proposal and whether that meets, like, where does safety codes fit with our commercial, a building like that, recreation facility, accessibility, all these things that we have to adhere to when we're doing anything like this? You know, the expansion to the pool, that project would not, this would be completely separate, of course. So maybe we can just leave it at that, Ken, that if Nancy, you can come back to council with just a Cole's notes of what this proposal looks like, and if, because I know a little bit about elevators and what's required in commercial space. And it's not a cheap venture. This, that $360,000, that's a 2% tax increase across the board through town, right?
The interest from the uppercut people have indicated that it was under $40,000 for the elevator.
Yeah, that doesn't matter though, Ken.
No, I'm
The
just saying.
project matters, right?
It was
So
under $40,000.
yeah, but the project's 360.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So yeah, let's leave it at that. With Nancy, you can come back to ask Andre or whoever how this fits and whether it would accommodate and kind of a brief look at where we might be able to put this in there, because it's a lot cheaper if we can use that existing lift and that's all, and this can drop in. You know, if we have to build on the exterior, we'll kiss your 360 goodbye, because now it's a fully enclosed commercial space that would just put the number through the roof. So if we can get the thing inside, it might hold us closer to this number. I still think the number's light, there's no question, but.
No, this
So
is
you can
all
look at that,
control.
Nancy, please. We'll come back, Ken. Yeah. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Is it an option to explore alternate use of space as Councillor Smith suggested?
Yeah, I think, Nancy, that's a good
Thank you.
question, that, you know, maybe come back with a little bit of thought on accessibility if the lounge, it still has problems, there's no question with doing that, yeah, okay. Okay, thanks, Ken,
Thank you very much.
appreciate it.
Appreciate your time, thank you.
No problem.
And hopefully we can resolve some of the accessibility issues that we have.
They're old facilities and there's a whole different age of safety codes in play now, so.
I understand.
Yeah.
And certainly, we have the affordability issue too.
Yeah, exactly.
But we also have the accessibility issue.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep, thanks, Ken. Proclamation for National Volunteer Week. We don't really need to speak to this, do we, Karen? Motion will do it, unless you really want to. You seem pretty
I
eager.
just wanted to touch on the point that the volunteer celebration will be held in person on April 20th, 2023 at 7:00 p.m. at the Highwood Golf Course.
Go. So I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that council authorize the mayor to sign the proclamation for the 2023 National Volunteer Week.
I'll give you my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. FCSS donations, Shelley?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Lovely to see you all. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you about this year's 2023 FCSS Community Grants. I want to extend a thank you to Councillors Jones and Walsh for supporting our 2023 FCSS Community Task Force, which we haven't had before. So along with senior leadership and myself, the two councillors and I have reviewed the applications. What's before you today is what started out as 14 applications for FCSS funds to support projects here in High River that aligned with our FCSS mandate, which is around preventive social services. Of those 14 applications, 11 were reviewed and 10 were recommended for funding. So the 10 projects before you today the applications were reviewed. We discussed them as a group. We met about them, and now they're before you today. Once the applications are approved by council, we then look at having the organization sign an agreement, and they commit to an annual report as well. We had just over $96,000 in requests for funds this year, and we had allocated in our budget $60,000 to allocate. So this committee had a little bit of a task ahead of them, and looking at what was the best fit not only for our community, what aligned with FCSS, but also looked at what the needs are at this time. So thank you to the committee for their work, and I will open the floor up to any questions that you might have about the recommendation before you.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Shelley, there's two school boards on here. Did the school boards elaborate on what the money's to be used for?
Yes. So we
Awesome.
had one application, Councillor Kinghorn from Foothills School Division, and that was for their family school liaison worker. And we had two applications from Christ the Redeemer School Board. One was as well for the family school liaison worker program, and the other one for their connections program. The decision at the time was to allocate equal funds to the two schools, to the school divisions. And so for Foothills School Division, the recommendation is for the Foothills, or for the family school liaison worker. And for the Christ the Redeemer, it was for all the funds to go to the connections program.
Thank you.
No further questions? Councillor Barton.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Shelley, for this. Quick question of how much, has there been an increase in grant requests, like in terms of dollars, any of that?
It seems to fluctuate. We had certainly some higher numbers. We've been well over $100,000 in requests pre-pandemic. And then there was some additional floods during the pandemic that were available to community organizations, so we saw those numbers drop. This year we were up by about $20,000 in asks again. And so we do see that increase. And it depends a little bit on, some of the organizations ask for a fairly significant amount when they have a larger project. So our school divisions are one of the groups that ask for some larger numbers. And others kind of stick within what they received in previous years. And so they kind of ask for what they've been successful in receiving. So it does fluctuate a bit. We are kind of, I would say we're almost back up to pre-pandemic numbers right now.
Thanks, Shelley.
Okay, I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Smith that council approve the allocation of the 2023 FCSS community grants as recommended by the FCSS Community Grant Task Force to come from the 2023 FCSS budget as follows. $3,000 to the Boys and Girls Club of Foothills, $7,500 Christ the Redeemer School Division, $4,000 to Unoya Equine Assisted Learning, $5,000 to Foothills Regional Victim Services, $8,000 to Foothills Country Hospice, $7,500 to Foothills School Division, $10,000 to Inclusion Foothills, $2,000 to Junior Achievement of Southern Alberta, $4,000 to the Branches Program of Rowan House Emergency Shelter, and $9,000 to Wild Rose Community Connections.
I will give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley.
Thank you.
It's a lot of work. Thanks to the committee. MOU with Museum of the Highwood. Alicia?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I come to the meeting today to ask for your support and approval in the execution for the renewal of this revised agreement for the Visitor Information Center operations carried out by staff at the Museum of the Highwood. As you know, the Museum of the Highwood has been the proud home of the Visitor Information Center for the past 5 years. The Visitor Information Center stays open year-round, 7 days a week, and is a valuable resource to tourists in our community. The friendly and knowledgeable staff at the museum are available to help visitors plan their adventure and provide current, relevant information and advice on what to do in the area. The staff take pride in preserving and sharing the unique history of the Highwood area by enlightening visitors to our community through a connection to the past. The museum also shares the town's vision of supporting the Alberta film industry and the economic benefits it brings to High River, welcoming many film tourists through the Visitor Information Center doors. Renewing this memorandum of understanding allows the museum to continue the efficient operations of the High River Visitor Information Center by offering their unique services to tourists and the community alike. It also allows the museum to continue with the successful Visitor Information Center operations for the next 4 years to achieve the goals and objectives as outlined in the cooperation of the agreement, allowing for ongoing development and management of the Visitor Information Center with museum staff on a quarterly basis. During this, I may also just call it the VIC to be easier than saying that 400 times. But so the proposed agreement with the revisions is in your council agenda package, and some of the amendments include a mutually beneficial decision to align the terms of this agreement with the museum's current community facility license agreement, so that both of those agreements can be negotiated and executed together. As such, the term on this MOU has been negotiated for 4 years, terminating December 31st, 2026. Reflect the liaison change to the Manager of Legislative and Advisory Services. The liaison works with museum representatives to ensure the obligations of both parties are being met as necessary to manage the VIC. To align the agreement with the ongoing operations and strategic initiatives the museum outlines specifically in reference to the Visitor Information Center. Although we strive to ensure strong communication between the town and the museum, we also recognize that the VIC staff are the experts when it comes to tourism and happenings in our community. As such, we have suggested that the museum take over the responsibility of developing and including the marketing and communications strategy for the VIC in the museum's strategic plan, alongside support from the town liaison. As it is currently, Travel Alberta has removed the accreditation process for local visitor information operations and signage obligations, so we wanted to reflect that in the renewal agreement. Lastly, the museum has expressed the importance of relaying pertinent information between the museum and the town to communicate local event information and ensure they stay informed throughout their busy season. We will be working closely with our communications team and other town staff within other divisions to ensure there are no gaps throughout the busy visitor months. In addition to the version in your agenda, there are 2 additional small changes that I made that I'd like to point out. So at section 4A, just to mirror the above point regarding the accreditation status, we've changed that to signage in operation will be in compliance with Travel Alberta requirements in order to maintain accredited visitor information status as applicable. And then at section 5A6, the interval of reporting to the town, changing that from monthly to quarterly. And that is the long and short of it. So if you have any questions,
Thanks,
feel
Alicia.
free.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Pardon my voice. I'm having a rough day today, I think. So I was part of this agreement back when we did it in 2017. And what I've read through here, we've added more work to the museum folks to keep this VIC up and running, and they do a really, really good job. I see Irene and Haley are here, and they've done amazing work for us, even through COVID and all the rest of it. Unfortunately, we don't have a starting point for a budget in here. Right now, it's $30,000. It's been $30,000 since 2017. There's been no increase in the funding to manage this VIC. I don't think we can. I don't know if we could put it in the agreement, but I'm looking to co-counsel that for sure for next year that we look at revising that budget amount to them, because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort, and they do a very valuable job for us. So I guess there wasn't a question there really, unless we could find some money this year to help them out a little bit. That would be great, but we'll go from there. Thank you, Mayor.
Sounds more like a demand to me.
Okay.
Counselor Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. So just to follow up on what Councillor Kinghorn said, if I may ask of the audience directly, is there an anticipation of what you think that might be by way of an increase requirement to help for this year that we can anticipate and add and plan for next year, but address your immediate needs now, if I may?
Don't waste the opportunity.
Here, it's yours, Irene.
Irene, do you want to come and sit up here?
Yeah, we can just turn this mic on, Alicia.
Okay. Then everyone else can hear you who's listening.
Hi, sorry. Yeah, so it's really difficult to quantify like the service that we provide. I think one of the issues is that, you know, our agreement did start in 2017, as Jamie mentioned, and we agreed on 30,000. And I understood that the budget was a little confusing this year for us, as you know, and I understood that the amount of $30,000 would be adjusted, like to reflect inflation and increased wages and operating costs. But then I spoke to David Crane and I had an email from him saying that it had already been approved in the budget. So I just thought, well, we'll just go ahead and work with that. And I guess the issue is that it's so intertwined with the museum itself. It's hard to pull out, like all of us. I mean, Haley's our VIC manager. We apply for 2 grants for summer students, but we still have to top up those grants. And so it's really hard to actually say how much of our budget is, you know, put towards the VIC, because all of us are always there as visitor service representatives. Like even me, I'll walk by the front door and somebody will come in and so I wish I could say an amount, Kelly, but I just can't even. I wouldn't know how to say how much of an increase, unless it was an inflationary increase or whatever. So yeah, but it is pretty. Our visitor through COVID, as you know, the curve went like this. In 2019, we had over 17,000 visitors that year. Then it kind of dropped during COVID, and then it's gone up. Last year was over 12,000, so we're kind of on the rise. And just judging from, you know, the phone calls and the emails and The Last of Us and all the other film tourism, the fact Heartland's probably going to go for another season, I can really see that it's just going to go crazy this year. And I'm also already noticing a trend this year. Like Easter weekend, we were open every day, and it was busy. Like Saturday was a bit slow, but Good Friday, Easter Sunday was even busy. So yeah, so it's more like a staffing thing, you know, and then just the general operational costs. So I mean, we could stay with the 30,000 this year, but I would really hope that we can increase that like next year to reflect the increase and also the increased responsibility, because when we first took it on, we had an economic development officer, we had a tourism person, we had, you know, all working at the town, and now there isn't really a specific department or person at the town that looks after that. So we kind of jumped in and filled that void, and I think we've done a really good job. And you know, plus we love it, and it brings people in the museum, and we get to meet the most awesome people. So yeah, so that's kind of a little bit of an update. Any other questions for me?
Any questions for Irene specifically? So Nicole, if you can just keep that in your notes for Chris and David. Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I don't know if it's for Irene specifically. I guess it's just for my understanding. So this is different than the actual agreement with the museum. This is specific to the Visitor Information Center. But this is not about part of the budget. This is just like a memorandum of understanding what they're supposed to do.
But there is. Sorry, the VIC is within the operating budget, though, for approval for $30,000 like annually.
Right.
But yes, this is completely separate from the community facility license agreement with the museum.
Okay.
Councillor Kinghorn?
Yeah, thank you. Other than item 3 does talk about annual funding dollars. It isn't specific amount, and that's why I brought the topic up. I'm going to suggest that it's been at least inflationary over the last 5 years, at least 10% since 2017. So if council was kind enough to increase that budget amount from $30,000 to call it $35,000 to help Irene out for our VIC this year, I would certainly be prepared to make that motion. Thank you.
Sorry, did you just make a motion?
I think so.
What was it
How did
again?
it sound?
Well,
that
you said a whole bunch of stuff,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
you said
yeah.
I'd be prepared to make a motion.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is
rewind.
that I would like to see High River Council amend the budget from $30,000 to $35,000 for the VIC operation in the year 2023. I guess it would be, right? That would be our fiscal 2023. Thank you. And then and further to that, to adopt some sort of a policy going forward in future years that it's looked at annually as opposed to just kind of put through like it was this year. Thank you.
We did update that section as well because it did say specifically $30,000 before, and we wanted to change that to say to obviously encompass the operations of the VIC. So we kind of took out that specific dollar amount in order to have a leg to stand on next year to yes, increase the budget for the operation of that.
Okay, so just talking with Nicole, she's emailing David frantically right now to figure out what's. It's 30 even? Okay. Okay, so Councillor Kinghorn's motion stands, so any discussion right now will be towards that motion. Basically to amend this year's budget to provide an increase of $5,000 to the Museum of the Highwood for the operation of the Visitors Information Center. Correct? Any questions on the motion? Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Just because this is a different policy, or a different agreement, like, are we attaching that to this agreement, or how is, like, I don't understand. I think I'm confused about what the two agreements, I guess the difference between the two agreements are.
No, my motion is a standalone motion that we would amend the budget to $35,000 for the VIC this year. The other is to do with the
Renewal of this
renewal of the
specific
agreement.
memorandum of
But
understanding.
I also, down the road, would like us to amend the agreement somehow to reflect a review of the funding model. Kind of like what we do for Museum and Shepherd Family Park and these other businesses, they're entities that operate for us where we have a per capita increase, something like that down the road. But I think this year, it's needed this year, so that's why I'm proposing this motion.
Yeah, I see what your question, it is two
I'm feeling it,
completely
yeah.
separate motions from what's in the agenda. He's put a budgetary motion on the floor that's specific just to the budget for this piece. Councillor Walsh, to the motion?
Thank you. Just so to clarify, the motion is regards to finance only, and the two different user agreements are now falling under the charge of Irene within the museum. Two different agreements, user agreements,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Not really user agreements, there's only one user agreement. This is a memorandum of understanding as to that the Museum of the Highwood will operate the VIC within their user agreement for the property, building, et cetera, right?
No, that makes sense, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Smith, to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to also maybe make a friendly amendment to Mayor To Mayor. Sorry, to Councillor Kinghorn. In suggesting that timely review of the budgetary requirements also happens with respect, because this is a twofold service that's being offered. I do believe that it is unique in that characteristic, and so I would like us to be able to review with a little bit more timeliness to budget time to make sure that the needs that they have to be able to provide the service are being adequately addressed going forward. So I don't know, that's a very long-winded way of saying I'd like to add the friendly amendment for timely review of that budgetary consideration, please.
You got it? Councillor Kinghorn approves. Jody, you've encapsulated this all into one sentence?
Maybe not captured it well in one sentence, but we will clean it up.
There you go. We know what we're doing. We're increasing it by $5,000 and we want timely reviews. Prior to budget. Exactly. Okay. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. You didn't waste the opportunity.
Great job. Thank you very much.
And I'll
Come and
also,
visit us sometime.
I'll also ask, if I visit you with my kids, I gotta have about 2.5 hours allocated because I'm not coming out of there within 20 minutes.
That's fine.
I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that council approve the MOU with the museum for the Visitor Information Center for a term of 4 years, expiring December 31st, 2026.
You have my motion.
And that council authorize the mayor and CAO to execute the agreement renewal. We have the motion from Councillor Walsh. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Irene.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Haley.
you.
Any council reports? Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I would like to remind everyone and let them know that speaking of the museum, their AGM is on April 19th at 7 p.m. at the museum. All are welcome.
Good. Councillor Burton?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to update council on a meeting that I attended with the Highwood Water Management Plan last week, and the one we specifically I didn't realize was when I was assigned to the committee, there's actually 2 projects we're working on. This particular one was to do with Frank Lake and the effluent, and just kind of an update on where we're at with everything, and I've asked Shirley Pickering to send us a whole package so we can share with council. It's pretty interesting what's going on out there, so
Okay.
that's it.
Sounds good. Thank you. Councillor Walsh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up the email I sent everybody in recent days with regards to my resignation with Community Futures Highwood. If you all remember, some time ago, they are changing their organization structure and are no longer forming their board by municipally appointed directors. So I'm down to 3 committees from 4.
Congratulations.
And also, I just want to say a special thank you to everybody that was involved in bringing the Shepherd Park user agreement full circle. And that I hope that it's more fluent going forward. And they have a new board member. We were happy to accept the Ken Perkins, previously from High River Rentals, has joined the Shepherd Park Board of Directors. So it's very exciting.
Nice. Thank you. One other piece, just so the community knows that council, all of council is tomorrow touring the Lethbridge Biogas Facility to have a look at an actual biodigester in operation. So, board and committee reports, anything? It's kind of already given. Public comments. Linda, you're it. What do you got? Okay, so Linda just advised us that Shepherd Family Park is doing a membership drive. First one is April 20th at Shepherd Family Park from 2 to 4. The second one is May 3rd from what time? 7 to 9 at Shepherd Family Park, so those that are interested. Thank you. Council correspondence requiring action, proclamation request from School Age Care Directors Association of Alberta regarding lights on after school Alberta. So I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that council authorize the mayor to sign the proclamation for lights on after school Alberta.
I'll give you that motion.
Cool. Kieran, do you know much about this?
Okay, so I'll just quickly read this. So it's on behalf of the School Age Care Directors Association of Alberta. They're reaching out for your organization's support and acknowledgement for the out-of-school care programs in Alberta. This is the 7th annual Lights On After School Alberta celebration on April 21st, 2023. It's a celebration of the positive impact out-of-school care programs make for children and families throughout the province. It was a light-up request, but they did say if we don't have lights to light up, we can do a proclamation.
Okay, perfect. So it's not telling the whole town to turn all your lights on,
No,
right? It's if,
I don't think so.
what this is actually for is that, you know, places like Calgary with the Calgary Tower and they can turn a certain light on.
Yeah, so it's the same as the request that we had, I think, a few weeks ago regarding the light up request, but since we don't have anything to light up,
We're doing the
we're doing
proclamation.
the proclamation instead.
Okay, sounds good. So the motion from Councillor Jones, all in favor? Carried. Council correspondence for information. Well. Hear ye, hear ye. No, this is just a 10-year acknowledgement to Nicole Chappelle for her 10-year service. Has it only been 10 years that you've been here? You've been here longer than that. Here 10 years. So it's great that you're being recognized for this, Nicole, and as far as from the town of High River. I've worked with you pretty much every day I've been here as well, and you're always a solid one for us to have around, and you put your hand up and you'll do pretty much anything that's asked of you for the organization. And when we had a gap in there with CAOs, you stepped up. We had some fun with that, there's no question. It was a long grind going through the hiring of Chris Prosser, but congratulations to your tenure. I know you just get a little pin, but means a lot more to us, so much appreciated. I didn't even run that through ChatGPT either. That was right off the cuff. There's a letter of support from the town of Barrhead to Minister Savage, and there's an email regarding the biodigester storm brewing. And I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Smith. The council recess the regular council meeting April 11th at 3:50 p.m. Move into a closed meeting.
I will happily give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Carried. Walsh, that the committee of the whole move out of the closed meeting April 11th at 4:06 PM and reconvene the regular meeting.
You have my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And I will make a motion coming out stating that council is unable to choose one single volunteer out of each of these categories because they are all equally beneficial to our community. So we will be recognizing each of these individuals that were nominated at the, what's the date of the event?
April 20th.
At the April 20th Volunteer Appreciation Night at the Highwood Golf Course. Good?
Yeah.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Meeting adjourned 4:07.